Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and this weekend I was working on a home where I'm helping to install a TapHome based home automation system. And one thing I wanted to integrate is some air conditioning units from Gree. And I heard that Gree air conditioning units have a custom component for, or custom nodes for Node-RED, so you should be able to control them from Node-RED. And I already had some experience how I can do communication between TapHome and Node-RED. So I was able to combine both of these and actually do the integration. So as you can see on the left now, up here, I actually have two air conditioning units at the moment. There is a third one, but we couldn't get the Wi-Fi working on that one. And I only decided that to bring over some of the basic functionalities. So turning the air conditioning on and off, changing the set temperature, changing the different modes, and also the ventilation speed. Actually, let me change views. Okay, so maybe you can see this a little bit better. So I can, sorry, but most of the thing is in Hungarian. But so this is turning the air conditioning unit on and off. This is changing the set temperature and changing the different modes. So either it's auto, heating, drying, ventilation only, or cooling. Well, actually, cooling is the second, heating is the last. And you can also change the different fan modes. And as I said, there are a lot of other things in the Gree units. Like you can turn off the lights if that's distracting, and I think the swing modes and everything. But I thought it would be easy just to control these four main modes of the unit. And of course, the configuration or the integration works both ways. So I can control the unit from here. So you see some footage that I took where I can use the TapHome app to control the air conditioning unit. But actually it works the other way around as well. So if I take the remote control and if I change the the degree or speed or anything, then the state comes through over to TapHome and it's going to update the state here as well. And as I said, I've done everything in Node-RED, so in this video I'm just going to go through the whole thing, how I did that. I'm doing this video retrospectively when I'm not at the same location. I don't have access to the Node-RED system, so actually I created some recording and I'm going to talk through that recording later in the video. So let me talk you how I did the integration. So basically what I needed to do is obviously these devices that you see here do not exist in TapHome as physical devices like inputs and outputs. So I created virtual devices in TapHome, and I use the exposed devices in order to gain access to these devices and changes through a TCP integration from TapHome. So I can connect to a specific port on the TapHome server, and TapHome is going to give me every single event when I'm changing any of the states or the temperatures or the modes or the ventilation or the fan speed in TapHome using these controls. So that sends the information over to the TCP connection, which I can capture in Node-RED. And then in Node-RED, I can do the rest of the the conversion of the data and then send the information to Gree to Gree air conditioning units using the Gree nodes. And of course, the other way around, if I control the air conditioning unit using the remote, then that information comes in Node-RED, as in the state of the air conditioning unit has changed, and based on this I can generate the information to update any of these the devices in TapHome. So that's the whole operation of the thing. So first, let me actually change view again. And let me look at these virtual devices that I had to create first. You need to go down into the settings and you have to do virtual devices, and well, I have quite a few of them here. And I created, as I said, 4 different virtual devices for every single air conditioning unit. And by the way, I designed this integration in a way that I designed the whole flow and the devices and the Node-RED logic for one single air conditioning unit, and then it can be easily copied for like a second or a third or a fourth unit. So the four devices. So the first one is a simple. So if you go up here, so the first one was a simple digital output, which has basically two states, you know, switch on, switch off, and it has an icon. You can change this icon if you want. And I mean, you know, I set the zone and the category and, you know, the icon, and I just localize the text to Hungarian. So it's nothing really complicated in that. The next one was a thermostat. I mean, this is the only device in TapHome where you can change temperatures in a dial. The only thing which caused me a little bit of issue is that you really, I mean, you can't just have a thermostat without a room temperature. So for here, I had to just pick a room temperature because maybe I could have done it a little bit more complicated, because Gree actually, sorry, I always say Gree, but it's Gree. But Gree measures the temperature measured by the AC unit as well, but that is always it's either a little bit colder or a little bit warmer temperature than the actual room temperature, because usually the split, you know, the unit is mounted on the top. So what I just picked another temperature sensor which is relevant to the room. So I had to do that here, and other than that, it's just like, you know, there's nothing really. You can set minimum and maximum temperature, how much you can move the dial, and that's it. And the third one was a multi-state device. What is it called? Multi-value switch. And here I, you know, picked up various icons and the text for the the 5 different states that supports that are supported by the Gree air conditioning units. So you can see here that you know, value 0 is automatic, and this is heating, drying, ventilation only, and sorry, this is cooling, and the last one is heating. And I had pretty much the same for the fan speed as well. And actually Gree supports 5 different speeds, because there is like low and medium, low and medium, high and high. But I decided just to only implement the 3 different states, and you also have automatic, which is the sort of like a default or the 0 value. Okay, so that was quite easy. You create these virtual devices, and then you actually have to go back to settings, and you have to select these expose devices option here. And here we have a couple of options. So I mean, when you expose devices, you have these options that you can do. And actually, I mean, I worked with this integration protocol before, and you have the option to either choose TCP or UDP. And I'm maybe I could have used UDP instead of TCP, but I guess in a local network, maybe that's not that important. And I haven't tried TapHome API, but the thing I like about this TCP connection is that you can just connect to that TCP port, just basically listen on that port, and then TapHome is going to send you updates whenever the device status changes. So this is what I have done here is, so I created a new one, well, new integration. It has an ID, and I selected the auto send. So that's basically, you don't have to query TapHome, but it's going to send you updates whenever the status changes. And header is disabled, TCP port, the default is 10,000. And then you select the devices that you want to send. And it's important thing is that you, well, the list of these devices are important, because when updates are sent by TapHome, it's going to send information in like the IDs in the same order that are listed here. So this is, you can see device ID 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you click on any of these devices, it is actually going to tell you how the you know, the information is going to be sent. So in this example, so for example, for, you know, this on-off switch and the multi-state switch, you are going to get a message which contains the first number is the device number, and then comma, and then you have the device status, which is usually 0, which means that the device is okay. And then you have a value which is off for, 0 for off and 1 for on. And the same for all these multi-state switches. So this one is going to be like 300, which means that it's set to automatic mode, or 301, which is set to, I think the first mode was cooling. And the same for the fan, so it will be 4, 0, let's say 1, or 4, 0, if again the ventilation is set back to automatic. So it is, fairly easy to read. The only other thing, which is a little bit complicated is the thermostat, because again it sets the information as 2, and then it sets the temperature, the set temperature, and then set point, and then it sets the room temperature and then the humidity. And I haven't set the humidity, so that always comes like -400. So you are going to see later on when I create the Node-RED how this information comes through. And because I link the temperature to the room temperature, so every time the room temperature changes, that sends an update to Node-RED as well. So it's a very simple communication. It is very simple to read. It's basically just a text file with a comma delimited values that comes through. And if you want to change any of these, you just write back to this TCP port with set, and then 2, and well, when you set, you don't have to put the the commas. So set space 2 space, and then the temperature you want to set. Or if you want to, let's say, turn on the air conditioning unit, it's basically set space 1, that's the device ID, space, and again 1, which is going to be the device state. But you're going to see this later on when we go to the Node-RED part of it. So that's it, and that's all it takes to set up this integration from the Node-RED, from the TapHome part. Okay, so this is going to be the video which I'm going to start and stop pause as I need to explain it. So what you see here, for example, here in the debug, is that's the information that comes through from the TCP node. So these are all the temperature changes. So 2 is the ID of the device. So the temperature, sorry, the thermostat was the second device. And then 0 is that the communication is okay. And 26 is the set temperature. 21.8 was the room temperature. -300 was the humidity, which I didn't set. So I guess this is just a default value. So that's how the whole flow looks like. And then in order to understand how this works, I used one of the examples from the Gree nodes. But first of all, we had to install the Gree, the custom nodes, and that's it. So Node-RED contrib Gree HVAC. So that's what you install. And once you install the node, then you can install this sample flow. If you go to import and examples, and then oh, sorry, yeah, it wasn't here. So you don't find the examples installed that way, but when you try to install the Gree HVAC unit, and if you click on this link to visit the page, then that's the example that I use. So if you import this example, you will be given this flow that you can see here. And the only important thing about this flow is if you click any of these buttons, it's actually going to tell you, how you need to set, that's the UI. So it's going to tell you what messages that you need to send. So you can see that, there is a topic always that you have to set for, power or mode or fan. And these are the values that you need to send in. So the temperature is to change the set temperature. And these are the messages that you send into the Gree node in order to change the AC unit, turn it on or change the temperature, or fan speed, or whatever other things that you need to do or you want to do. And of course the heart of the flow is this Gree HVAC node. And all you need to do is you need to set all your HVAC units. So here you give it a name, and then you you provide the IP address of the unit. So obviously, first you need to set it up in the Gree Plus. I mean, all these HVAC, all these ACs are, they are using the Gree Plus mobile app. So first you select it. It's going to give you instructions how you set up the Wi-Fi. So you have to press 2 buttons on the remote and it goes into Wi-Fi mode, and then you can add it to the application. And as part of, within the process when you add it to your mobile application, obviously you will connect to your Wi-Fi network. So if you visit your router, DHCP list, then you would be able to find what is the IP address of your AC unit. And of course this IP address could change, so the best idea, well, I guess the only option you have, because you can't tell the AC to have a fixed IP address, but in your router you can reserve this IP address in the DHCP server or the DHCP settings, so that the this unit with the MAC address, which is the MAC address of the Wi-Fi unit within the AC, will always receive this IP. Because if you don't do that, then the IP might change and your flow is not going to work all of a sudden. So just keep in mind to do that. So in my case, it was 109, the IP of one of the AC units, and the other AC unit was like, well, it's just a different IP. So all you have to do in this Gree node is to basically set the IP of the device. And then from this point onwards, every time the AC unit changes its status, it's going to send out a message. And actually, I usually listen to the message which comes out of the second port, and those are always the status update messages. So again, if you turn it on with the remote, if you change the temperature, your fan speed, whatever, then you will get a message out of the second port. And I managed to create an update, so you can see that that's the message that comes out of the second port, and within the payload you get the current status of the machine, so that it's on and it's in dry mode, the temperature is set to 25 degrees and the fan speed is set to low, and you can see all the other fields as well, which I didn't care about in this particular situation. But you can work on all the fields that you have, like quiet mode, turbo mode, and the swing. But I think that those are the things that maybe you set it once as your preference and you don't really touch it. Okay, so the next important thing is that we had to create a TCP request node in order to set up the communication between TapHome and Node-RED. So the IP is the IP address of your TapHome server, and the port is port 10,000, which was the default port. And we set the return to string and the connection to keep alive, and the delimiter to \n, which is the new line character. So that is going to give us basically just on the output node a string every time the any of the devices that we added to this expose integration. Every time any of those devices changes, and that's what you can see on the debug node left. And in order to get this communication started, you have to create an inject node which starts in the beginning of the Node-RED flow. And also, I'm not really sure if it is important, but I specify that the interval should be there should be an interval of every 60 minutes. Because if for any reason the connection is broken, then it's going to reinitiate that connection. So I think probably that's a safety thing. Yeah, so that starts the connection, and then once it's started, you will see that it's going to show the status as green, and status is connected. And you will start receiving these messages. These are the messages that I just explained previously. So these are the all the temperature changes. So now we need to convert these messages. So I created this function node, and what I do here first is I remove all the line feed characters at the end of the string that we receive, and I also split it by comma. So instead of having one big string, I get an array with all the different numbers in a separate element of the array, because it's just easier to work with later on in the code. So in this case, it will be like 2026 21.8 minus 300. So that's what I'm doing, and next I'm checking if the array has more than one items, because normally it should, and if it's not, then it's probably some other message we don't really care about. And now all I need to do is I need to check what is the first letter, the first, well, basically number, but it's a string, and which is going to be the device ID. So if it's 1, then I need to create, well, if it's 1, it means that somebody has pressed the, the turn on and off button in TapHome. So now I need to create a message with the topic power, and the payload would be either on and off based on whether the value is 1 and 0. If the device is 2, then it's a temperature change or a thermostat change. So I need to create a topic temperature, and I convert the second value, or actually the third value, sorry, to, because the second value is the, whether the communication is okay or not. So I create that to a number, and I remove the decimals because the Gree doesn't support decimal places. And I do the same with if the device, if the ID is 3, then I'm changing the mode, and in TapHome the mode is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just created this array which returns the text which the Gree expects for these different modes, and the same for the fan speed. So it's fairly easy. So from these 1, 0, something, we are creating messages like topic power payload 0 or something similar. And next I added this filter node because well, as you can see, for the temperatures, because we have the room temperature, and the room temperature changes, it creates additional messages. I created this filter node, so we filter out any if the messages are the same, and we only allow individual messages to pass through, and then these messages go to the Gree component. So they get sent to the actual AC units, and they turn it on, change the temperature or something else. And then once the information comes out of the Gree node, because we changed it or we used the remote or some other way, then we already seen how this payload looks like. And basically all I'm doing is that I generate subsequent update messages from these that will update all the devices in TapHome as well. So whenever one single update comes from the Gree node, in my case, I generate like 4 different messages. So I update all the different devices to be in sync. So you can see, for example, from the message.payload.power, whether that's off, on, or off, I create these messages like set 100. So that's turn off the device, or set 101 is turn the device on. So again, here the second 0 is whether the device is working or not. But because we just received a communication from Gree, then the device is online and it's working fine. I haven't even created this scenario where the device is not connected. So maybe I should be able to catch some exception on the Gree node, and if that's the case, I can set all these devices to, maybe I can set it to like 5 unknown error or 4 communication error, but I didn't go to that route, so it's just basically that. And you can see that and I also had to end \n at the end of the message, so it includes the line feed, because that's how TapHome expects the updates as well. And then you can see that if I want to set the temperature, that's set to 0 and the temperature value, or the mode is set 30 and the mode number. And then we just basically do the reverse conversion from the text back to the IDs based on this predefined array that I have on the top. And here for the fan speed, I just have this if node, because again, if let's say I only handle the the three main fan speeds, low, medium, and high. And if it's anything different, then I just don't update TapHome. So if you set it to medium low on the remote, it doesn't go to TapHome. And then, of course, finally I send a message set for 0 and whatever value if the fan speed changes. And that also goes to the filter, so in case there are multiple messages, and that just goes back to the TCP node, so that sends the update back to TapHome. And as you can see, I have two Gree AC units, so I basically just duplicated the flow twice. So this is the flow for the first, and this is the flow for the second AC unit. And the only thing I needed to change, the port for that. I'm just going to quickly go back to the TapHome just to show you the difference. So that connects the different port. And then, of course, then on the Gree unit, it just sends the updates to a different configuration, which in the background it just links to different IPs, so it sends the information to a different Gree unit. And that's pretty much it. So it means that if you have like 3, 4, 5 units, then you just have to duplicate this flow, this part of the flow this many times, and then change the port, and then change the IP or sort of the configuration on the Gree node, and you will be able to control yet another unit from TapHome. And what I'm going to share in the video description is one of these, the flow for one of the units. And going back to TapHome, I just wanted to show you that, as I said, I have 2 units. So within the virtual devices, I have one set of virtual devices for one of the air conditioning units. And then I have a second set of devices that are configured exactly the same. I just given different names and different rooms for the second air conditioning unit. And if I go back to the exposed devices, so this is the integration for the first unit. You can see that, this is the RC unit, which is in the wellness area. So it's wellness, wellness, wellness. And it's port 10,000. And I created yet another interface, which is again same TCP. And actually, I'm not sure if this should be interface ID 2. Not that it really makes a difference. I don't know what's the difference, what difference the interface ID makes. But again, it's old, auto send, and it just had another, the next port which was available. And you can see all the same 4. And of course, it makes the difference now because we are using the same Node-RED flow, that the order of these particular devices are exactly the same. So in my case, the first is the on-off, the second is the thermostat, and the mode and the fan speed. And that's it. And as I said, you can create yet another one, assign it to a different port, and that would be, let's say the third device that you want to control. Okay, so I think that will be all about this integration. As I said, the Node-RED flow for that single control unit, to control a single air conditioning unit, is going to be done in the video description. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you next video.